Thanks so much for joining me. Before we get started, please take a second to click subscribe to my channel to keep up with all of my latest investing and personal finance content. And please check out the link you see on your screen for a message from our sponsor, The Motley Fool, where you can get the top 10 stocks to buy right now. So, I'm really excited for one thing that's going to happen in about 2 months. Tyler and I are actually heading to Omaha, Nebraska. I know it's a much longer journey than it is for Tyler than for me, although for whatever reason, my plane tickets were more expensive. But I know
I love
Tyler,
to
this
rub
is
that in.
I know, and Tyler's coming from Georgia, not the state, the country. And I am coming from South Carolina. Somehow it's more expensive because I'm coming from an airport that has is about the size of the room I'm standing in. So with that in mind, we're going to Omaha. Warren Buffett, I think it's amazing that him and Charlie Munger can sit up there and talk for 8 hours straight, essentially. They take a short lunch break, but they're just talking the whole time, mentally sharp and just 92 years old and 99 years old, and they take questions from the audience that they really don't know what they're going to talk about. So it's not like his letter where he generally talk. You have a general idea of what he's going to address in his letter. At the meeting, it's anyone's guess what people are going to ask. So Tyler, I'm going to give you the floor. If CNBC put the microphone in your face and asked you to ask Warren Buffett a question at the meeting, what are you going to ask about?
Yeah, this is something I've wondered about for a long time because Berkshire Hathaway has dabbled in oil and gas for the past 25, 30 years. But no position has been like one of those long-term core holdings like a Wells Fargo or a Coca-Cola or an Apple or something like that, where they're like, we're going to go to bat and we're going to hang on to this thing for long periods. So I would like to know what his like learnings and thinkings and different theses on oil and gas have been over the past 25 years, and whether or not his current investments, which I believe are Chevron and Occidental, I can't think if there's any other big publicly traded oil positions in there right now. I'd like to know, why are these the ones he's landed on? Because in the past, he's invested in Phillips 66. He's invested in Suncor. He's invested in ExxonMobil. He's even invested in some of the service companies in previous iterations of the Berkshire portfolio. So I'd like to know, what gives? Why is this one just kind of one that you've been in and out of so many times?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I can understand why Chevron instead of ExxonMobil right now. I could totally make that argument. I'm not even an oil and gas guy. Um, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of been an on again, off again position. Um, I kind of want to say the airlines are, are a similar animal in that sense. But so if I were to ask a question, I would really have to think about it. But one of the things I really want to know is kind of why isn't real estate more of Buffett's strategy? He loves real things. A lot of his earlier letters had to do with owning farmland, for example, was a big topic of discussion. And Buffett owned one real estate investment trust in Berkshire's portfolio that was Store Capital. It just got taken private, so now there's no real estate in Berkshire's portfolio. There's some on the private side. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services is actually the largest brokerage in the country right now, and has done more than any other business, in my opinion, of actually getting Berkshire's brand name out there. It's the most consumer facing brand, in my opinion, of Berkshire Hathaway right now that people associate with Warren Buffett. Um, but I'd want to know kind of where real estate fits into strategy and why there aren't more REITs in Buffett's portfolio. It seems like they have a lot of Buffett qualities. They pay great and reliable dividends. They're massive cash flow generators. They have a lot of downside protection in tough times because they have asset value. I don't know, Tyler, any thoughts on why doesn't Buffett put more money into real estate instead of oil and gas?
I, I think I want to be more specific about not real estate, but real estate investment trusts,
Mhm.
because as we've discussed before, when talking about real estate investment trust is, any individual is limited to a certain amount of the company, right? I think it's maximum 5%. Am I
Ten
right?
percent is the kind of stretch limit.
Right. So knowing that I can't go past 10% in what historically have not been huge market cap businesses. I mean, up until, 10 years ago, you didn't have 50, 60, 70 billion dollar real estate investment trusts. They were, 5, 10 billion dollar enterprises, which was just too small for Berkshire. And even now today with his portfolio as big as it is, I don't think there's anything like worth, you can't take a big swing at anything in real estate unless you're willing to buy the whole thing and incorporate it into the wholly owned portfolio. And so that's a different question, like why he doesn't want to go wholly owned portfolio of something like we mentioned, store capital, realty income seems like something that would make sense to him. But specifically for the REITs and just kind of dabbling in the publicly traded, I think that's the reason right there.
I feel like Store didn't get acquired for a giant premium. There was a go shop provision in the deal. Why wouldn't Buffett just try to bid over top if he liked the company? Is kind of, and you make a good point about the 10% limit. It would take one of the mega REITs like American Tower or like a Realty Income to have even a needle moving effect in Berkshire's portfolio with 10%. But as we've seen a lot of REITs get taken private or bought out by other companies. American Campus Communities is another one that as a 10% stake wouldn't have been meaningful for Berkshire Hathaway, but as a wholly owned subsidiary, sure. And it's great cash flow generation. So that's what I would ask if. But I am happy to sit there and listen for hours and hours to Buffett talk, with a short break, of course, to go out to the exhibition hall and buy some tchotchkes from all the Buffett companies.
Well, I think we're going to go a little long here, but there was a little mention of it in the most recent letter. So I thought I wanted to mention it was because he did mention that, taking something wholly private does carry a pretty big um, premium.
Mm.
And, if you're having to buy something outright, you're typically having to pay a high price. And so that might be one of the limiting factors. You see it with like Berkshire Hathaway Energy. They used to wholly buy utilities and then house it in the energy, but now they just go buy parts of other utilities. And I think, if it were to go down the real estate business, that's what it would do, is it just start acquiring parts before it until it's, something of significant size.
No, that's a good point. Like people forget that when you see Berkshire has $140 billion or so of cash right now, they'll say, "Oh, well, Target has a market cap of 100 billion. Buffett could go buy Target." He wouldn't actually pay 100 billion for it. You would have to pay some kind of very enticing premium to get them to sell the company. And I don't know if Target's 100 billion anymore, but at one point it was. But you make a good point with the premium. Like when you see a REIT that's beaten down, like we mentioned, in a different video, American Tower is underperforming the market this year. You would have to pay a hefty premium to take that completely private, and that's what a lot of people forget. And that probably does have a lot to do with it. That's a good point. A more fun question: in the exhibition hall with all of Buffett's subsidiaries selling all their goodies, are you more excited for the peanut brittle, or is it something else that you're gonna you're gonna check out?
I'll probably look at the Brooks running gear.
That's what I did last time. I think you're doing the 5K with me.
I
And
am.
if anyone listening is planning on making a pilgrimage to Omaha or hasn't thought about it yet, it is definitely worth doing at least once. And Buffett is 92, Munger is 99. So how many chances are you going to get with both of them in the room? And not to be morbid, they could retire. I always get accused of being morbid when I talk about Buffett going away, but it's a great time. I went last year for the first time, and I'm going again this year, and can't wait to see everybody there. I had a few people who recognized me from videos say hi last year, and hopefully the same thing happens. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to click subscribe if you don't subscribe to my channel already. And as always, this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. Be sure to visit www.fool.com/Frankel to receive the top 10 best stocks to buy now.